My name is Jamin Gurker. I'm your first friend in Alaska, and luckily for you, I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, which means I can actually give you the market update for what's going on in Eagle River, Alaska. This is kind of a small but mighty real estate market, and I think this is shaping up to be a pretty interesting season for the real estate market here in the Eagle River area. So we'll jump into all of that in just a minute. Before we get started though, give this video 2 big thumbs up, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Make sure you post some comments down below. That really does help with the algorithm and help with other people finding it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. Looking first at the single family sector of the real estate market. First thing that we see is that this time last year, there were 26 properties available on the market. And this year, there are 26 single family properties available on the market. So not a whole lot of movement that way as far as the inventory that's actually available. And I know that sounds really low, but it's actually lower than what it actually sounds like, because normally we'd expect to see anywhere from 100 up to about 120 properties available on the market, and now we're looking at 26. So that what was that, like 25% of what we normally have. So it's pretty bad. Yeah, not a lot of inventory available. So if you're looking at, we'll save the analysis and all that for the summary. Next thing we see is the number of properties that have actually been bought and sold in Eagle River for the past month of February. Went from 15 to 16 this year. So slight increase. Normally we'd expect to see anywhere from about 17 up to about 23 properties, being bought and sold. So we see that's more or less in line with what we normally see, even though the inventory is just so drastically cut from where it normally is. So that really does speak to the high demand for properties in Eagle River. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the average sold price. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read this off to you, and then I'm going to offer some analysis so we can dissect this a little bit and figure out what's actually going on. So the average sold price year to date for properties in Eagle River went from about $500,000 this time last year to date, to $471,000 this year. Now, before everyone starts getting super excited and saying there's a 30% decrease in the average sold prices in Eagle River and the market's about to collapse and so on and so forth, I'm really not seeing that in the data. Really what I'm seeing is, just because we have such a small compressed number of homes that are being bought and sold, we are seeing these anomalies happen where there's these big fluctuations where it's really up or really down. And really what it comes down to is it's not the statistical trend that we're seeing. It's the fact that we're seeing some higher priced homes being sold at a certain time of year last year as opposed to this year, which you can't always rely on a really high dollar home selling at a specific time of year every year. Now, just to give you an idea for the anomalies here, we see that for the month of January of last year in 2024, we see the average sold price was, we'll just say approximately $460,000. This year it was about $525,000. So you can see like that $60,000 swing upwards in like 1 month. Now, when we look at this past year, for the past month of February, keeping them just in the same spirit of all the anomalies and the fluctuating up and down with the extremes. The average sold price this time last year was about $507,000, and this year $406,000. So we're going to get a decent average here that's somewhat reliable once we get further along in the year. Until then, we're going to see these drastic ups and downs, but I can say anecdotally, if a property is on the market in Eagle River and it's priced to where it needs to be, I'm not seeing no 30% cut from what they could have gotten the previous year. Okay, it's pretty crazy out there. So yeah, we'll talk more about that in the summary though. Switching gears, we're going to take a look at condos now. Now, condos aren't a huge part of the real estate market here in Eagle River. I really do believe it's going to change moving forward. But for right now, we'll deal with the smaller number. So we see this time last year, there were 7 condos available on the market. Now we're seeing there are 8 condos available on the market, which, as we mentioned before, good positive move in the right direction, but normally we'd see anywhere from 17 to 24 properties available. So still kind of a decrease compared to what we normally see. Looking at the number of condos that have actually sold for the month of February 2025, we see that this time last year it was 4. in February 2025, we see that there are 2 condos that actually sold. Now, prior to COVID, it's all over the place. I've mentioned before, small sample size, you see these extremes. Well, normally we'd see anywhere from like 1 to like 6 condos being sold for the month of February. So it's all over the place, but it's still about where I'd expect it to be. Now, the average sold price for condos has gone from about $319,000 to about $334,000 this year to date for condos, which means we've seen about a 4.8% increase for the average sold price. Now, not a big surprise here. You just never know with a sample size being as small as it is, where the actual trend is right now, because it might just be we've got newer condos that are selling, which is a possibility compared to the year before. But also, it would not surprise me at all that condos are continuing to appreciate at a pretty healthy level. Maybe not as much as what we'd expect to see in single families, but still at a pretty consistent and healthy appreciation rate of 3-4% or so. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit, I host the podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast. I talk with people who've recently moved up here about what it's like living here, so you get to hear from people other than just me talk about what it's like living up here. And these folks really, it's no holds barred. They have no problem speaking their mind. So that's something that would benefit you. Do make sure you go check it out. And also, if you're considering making a move up here, make sure you reach out to me on my website. Link for that is in the description section down below. And go ahead and register to the website. Put relocation guide in the little comment section there, so I can go ahead and send you a copy of my relocation guide. Do put that just in the comment section of this video. I have no way of sending anything through comment sections on YouTube, so please make sure you register to the website, and I'll make sure I get that to you. Now, let's go and talk about what's going on in the multifamily section of the real estate market here in Eagle River. All right, last year, we had 2 multifamily properties available on the market, and this year in 2025, February, we had 2 multifamily properties available on the market. So not a whole lot of movement one way or the other. Prior to COVID, we'd expect to see anywhere from really about 7 to about 9 properties available on the market. So still not seeing a whole lot of inventory coming up or returning back to where it was prior to COVID probably anytime soon, but it's certainly not there at the moment. Now, looking at the number of multifamily properties that have actually been bought and sold, we see that this time last year it was 1, and this year it is 2. So, yay, 50% increase. But what we see is that normally we'd expect to see, really anywhere from 0 to about 3 multifamily properties being sold for the month of February, so not a whole lot of movement there, despite the fact the inventory is a lot lower than what it normally is. All right, this average sold price for multifamily properties is pretty ridiculous, difficult to use, but I'm going to take a crack at it anyway. Technically, the average sold price year to date last year was about, we'll say just shy of $1 million. And this year it's about $442,000, which obviously just means we sold a giant multifamily property this time last year that was really expensive. Small sample size being what it is the data is really going to be thrown off when that happens. Now, what I do find interesting and useful is looking to the prior year and getting some kind of benchmark without using the immediate previous year that's obviously has that big property that threw everything off. Because we see that in year-to-date 2023, average sold price was actually about $428,000, and this year, $442,000. So that's a little bit more in keeping with what I would expect for the average sold price for multifamily properties in Eagle River. Kind of a good, steady appreciation of properties here in the area. It does remain a pretty desirable place for investors because the cap rate is really low, and Eagle River is a desirable place for a lot of people to live because it kind of marches to its own tune in a lot of ways. It kind of has a small town feel to it, and that does attract a lot of great tenants that are not going to give you a whole lot of headache. And so for that reason, a lot of investors really do like this area, and it would not surprise me at all that we do see the steady increase for value of properties here in Eagle River just for that reason. All right, let me go and wrap all this up in a little bow for you. So for buyers, here's the summary I would give for you. This is not the market we've seen in previous years, which, that should hopefully give you some optimism. We're starting to see a little bit of an increase for inventory that's available, which is great, but also we're going to see an increase of buyers that are out there looking for properties as well. We'll just wait and see how the market shakes out up here, but do keep in mind, if you are a buyer in Eagle River, you're going to have to be ready to really compete for some properties because there's hardly any of them here. And even if the number of buyers looking is less than what it was in the COVID years, the inventory is still much lower than what it was during that time period. So you're still going to have to be ready to compete. If you're not ready to compete, you're going to have to go find yourself a turd, or you're going to have to avoid Eagle River altogether. I'm sorry. That's just kind of the reality at the moment. We'll see if the inventory situation changes anytime soon. I kind of doubt it, because the reason the inventory is so low is because everybody refinanced or purchased in the years during COVID when we had really low interest rates, and now people are like, man, I'm not going anywhere because I've got this really sweet low interest rate, and if I move somewhere else, I'm going to have to actually degrade the quality of the house I'm getting just because I can't afford as much because the interest rate is higher. And so with that being the case, most people are looking out there and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to stay put. I'm not going to be selling. And that's what's creating that shortage. Now, as a seller, this is a solid market for you if you are a seller, but do keep in mind, this is not the market we had back in 2020 or 2021. Okay. We're going to have to do some work. We're going to have to make sure the price is where it needs to be. We can't just throw any old price up there and just expect whatever it is, somebody's going to make an offer. Like, if property is obviously not priced to where it needs to be, it's going to sit like a bug on a log. Okay, that's what's different about this market as opposed to the market during COVID. If a property is obviously not priced correctly, it's just going to sit there. Okay, so we're feeling that gravity pulling sellers back down to earth a little bit, so that's good. Still increasing for the appreciation, just not by as much as what we saw during the COVID years. So big thing there, you've got a good hand, just don't overplay it and you'll do fine. Investors, big thing for y'all is just make sure your numbers actually do balance out. So when the inevitable happens and stuff breaks down on your property, you can actually fix it, and you're not the person making your tenants have to live in a less than ideal situation because you didn't leave enough margin in your deals. So this has been your market update for Eagle River. I hope it's been useful. If you want to support me and you're looking at purchasing something here in Eagle River or South Central in general, make sure you reach out to me, or looking to sell for that matter, make sure you reach out to me. I actually do make my income from buying and selling, helping people buy and sell properties, and not just from being a YouTuber. So if you want to support me, that's how you do it. But hope this has been useful. See you next time.